Good evening all. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Councillor Rachel Eden. I'm the Mayor of Reading and I chair these council meetings. Before we start this evening, I have a couple of announcements to make. Firstly, as usual, I'd like to inform everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live on the internet and will be available for repeat viewing on the council's webcasting site. You may also notice a small chocolate egg near to your name tag. I have not suspended standing orders, so eating is not permitted during the council meeting, but it is Fair Trade Fortnight and I wanted to give you all a little taste of fair trade goodness and of course a little small incentive for you to consider ensuring that this meeting goes promptly and smoothly. Councillor Hoskin, I have duly reprimanded you. Thank you. I have apologies for absence this evening from Councillor Balsden, Councillor Hornsby-Smith, Councillor McCann, Councillor Sultan and Councillor O'Connell, I believe as well. Are there any other apologies for absence? Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. We'll ensure those are recorded. Lovely. I see no other apologies, so we'll move on to item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No, none. We'll move on to minutes of the meeting held on the 31st of January. Any items, or can I sign them as a correct record? Thank you. Petitions, we have none received, so we move on to public questions, and we have one public question from Kate Nicolina. You're very welcome to come forward. Thank you. And Kate Nicolina is going to ask the lead councillor for Environmental Services and Community Safety a question on narrow bin lorries. Thank you.
Hello, thank you. The Green Party has been working with residents and started petitioning for a narrow bin lorry to help with bin collections from narrow roads in December 2021. And my question is, when is the council going to buy this vehicle? Thank you.
Thank you. And we have an answer from Karen Rowland, sorry, Councillor Karen Rowland, Lead Councillor for Environmental Services and Community Safety.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I would like to thank Ms. Nicolina for her question. Just to let you know, that vehicle has been purchased.
Thank you for that succinct contribution. Do you have a supplementary?
I do, thank you. The supplementary question would be, do you have any idea when the vehicle might be implemented and which wards?
Thank you. Councillor Rowland to reply.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. The supplementary question does not seek to clarify the answer.
I think it does, because the question does reference that they want help with bin collection, so I'm going to allow it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and the vehicle will be delivered around the 1st of April.
Thank you. That was our only public question. You're very welcome to stay for as much or as little of the remainder of the evening as you wish, so please do take a seat. So we now move on to councillor questions, of which there are 5 this evening. Question 1 may be of interest to members of the public actually, because it's on the same topic, from Councillor Cross to ask the lead councillor for Environmental Services and Community Safety a question on bin collection and ultra-narrow refuse collection vehicles.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the council meeting in October 2022, the lead member provided a response to my question about bin collection issues in the narrow streets off Early Road and Addington Road in Redlands Ward, where crews have struggled to gain access due to cars being parked badly. I'm grateful that a number of my suggestions have now been implemented, including letters being sent to residents reminding them to park properly, leaflets being placed on the windscreens of poorly parked vehicles prior to collections, and clearer information on the council's web portal. I am pleased that the impact of missed collections now seems to have been reduced. However, crews are still sometimes having issues with completing their rounds, which is understandably causing frustration for residents. Could the lead member for Environmental Services and Community Safety therefore please update me on the Council's progress towards implementing the proposed ultra-narrow refuse collection vehicle, which I have been campaigning for?
Thank you. And Councillor Rowland to reply, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I would like to thank Councillor Cross for his question. I am pleased to advise that arrangements have been made for the introduction of a dedicated narrow access vehicle with rounds for our narrow roads commencing Tuesday, the 4th of April, 2023. The round will be serviced with a new narrow access vehicle, which is 13.4 centimeters narrower and 3.69 meters shorter than our traditional RCVs. This vehicle is on order to deliver on 1st of April. In the unlikely event of a delay, we will be hiring a vehicle to ensure collections. Clear guidance and comms will be going out to residents within the narrow roads access rounds to take in the roads listed below. I will not read that out. General waste and recycling collections will take place on a Tuesday. Food waste collections will remain unchanged. Several rounds of comms to residents will be going out in March, with the first collection scheduled for Tuesday, the 4th of April. These roads have, over the years, regularly experienced failed collections as a result of the narrow road geography and access frequently impeded by poorly parked vehicles. The new narrower vehicle will be more easily able to navigate these roads, providing a far greater consistency of service and quality that our residents deserve. Whilst the narrow roads lorry will ensure that waste is able to be more consistently collected from narrow roads, it is worth noting that the vehicle is less operationally efficient than the existing RCV fleet. Due to its smaller size, it carries only 1.3 tons of waste and requires more frequent visits to the HWRC to offload. The bin lifting mechanism also operates at half the speed of the traditional fleet. Although the vehicle will allow for greater accessibility along narrow road routes, and the change to a Tuesday collection will provide an opportunity for waste collection to be attempted again within the same working week, should the collection be prevented by an extraordinary event. The day change also minimizes the impacts of rescheduled collections that result from bank holiday Mondays, which have only exacerbated the situation over the years. Finally, let me set the record clear. The acquisition of a narrow roads bin lorry has been an aspiration of this Labour-led council and preceding lead portfolio colleagues for a good few years, but it has heretofore been unachievable for a myriad of challenging reasons. The work that Councillor Cross has doggedly pursued in his own ward over this past year in dealing with this situation to improve the levels of failed collections by placing letters on parked cars, improving the accuracy of comms to residents via the website, and establishing regular Friday reporting as we have implemented have all helped greatly. However, that has also been to those alterations to the service that have gone to highlight that the current use of the larger lorries is simply not a reliable, resource efficient, or financially sustainable option any longer. Therefore, I'd like to thank Councillor Cross for all his work alongside me and our officer team to find a solution that I hope will deliver to Redlands, but also to provide solution to years of frustration for my own Abbey ward and Catesgrove ward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rowland. Is there a supplementary?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor.
And thank you to the lead member for her detailed response and hard work on resolving this issue. I would be grateful if she could kindly provide further detail about the communications plan that is intended so that residents are aware of these changes and know how to plan their waste disposal accordingly.
Sorry, Councillor Rowland. I was waiting for the leader and the leader of the opposition to end their private meeting.
Madam Mayor, I was just going to
Is this all right? I'm taking Councillor Rowland's
make a point of order
answer.
just to check that that is a clarification.
I think it's just clarification. I allowed it for the public question. I'll allow it for the councillor question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, Councillor Cross asks about the communications, and I do understand that there will be communications going out by mid-month and then going out towards the end of the month to properly inform residents of the change in the schedule, and also to let them know more fully about the process that we will be undertaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowland. And we'll move to question 2, which is also from Councillor Cross, to ask the lead councillor for Environmental Services and Community Safety, bins left on pavements. Councillor Cross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A small number of streets in Redlands, such as Blenheim Road and Hatherley Road, have persistent problems with people leaving their bins out on the narrow pavements between collections. This causes difficulties for pedestrians, including disabled people and parents with pushchairs who are forced to walk in the road. There is a high density of houses in multiple occupation in this area with associated bin issues. I've been working closely with the university's community relations team, who have contacted students about waste problems. Many of these have now been resolved, but the issue with bins being left on pavements persists. Clearly, most households in Reading manage to bring their bins back in after collection. However, given the local circumstances, will the lead member consider formalising an approach in these streets whereby the crews return the bins to just inside the property boundary?
Thank you, Councillor Cross. Councillor Rowland.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'd like to thank Councillor Cross for this question also. His concern about access on our pavements is an issue we all share, and one that we have been delivering with the Disabled Access Working Group over the past year in progressing the return of food bins to a safe location to improve accessibility. We know Councillor Cross's concern has been challenging for some time, and he is right to ask for a better solution. In Redlands, a compounded situation exists with narrow roads accessed by waste vehicles and the parking of cars halfway up on the pavements due to the narrow road width. This creates a knock-on effect when bins are left out for missed collections or by busy students for days on end. There are pavements where you simply cannot squeeze through between a car and a bin on many of the pavements as a result. Everyone, able-bodied or not, is forced out into the street, which is unacceptable. Now, with Labour's persistence in securing the narrow roads bin lorry, we have the bandwidth to look strategically at a resolution to this issue. I'd like to thank Councillor Cross and his local Labour colleagues for the very detailed charts that they have sent on by cataloging pavement widths, photo documenting issues, and presenting officers with prioritized, realistic list of streets where access is at its worst. Regrettably, the structure of fixed penalty notices within this transient student area has not elicited the results to make a substantial difference, and officers therefore agree with Councillor Cross that trying to work towards a bespoke solution to improve accessibility on the worst of these streets is in order. Successfully delivering waste collections whilst a task performed by humans is a critically timed effort, and every extra second count costs money, resourcing, and expense that this council cannot bear. To place a bin back within the curtilage of a property, depending on the complexity of step landings and locked gates, can easily take an additional 5 to 8 seconds per bin. Multiply that time by the number of properties on a road, this can lead to cascading unacceptable service failure. Fortunately, with the narrow wet road bin vehicle introduction on the 4th of April, there does lie scope for tackling this issue with households on those roads with the most impassable situations. Although the vehicle will be less operationally efficient, we will be monitoring and assessing those rounds as they embed themselves in, and we will be able to consider any surplus capacity for teams that may exist, such as when the lorry heads off for more frequent tipping at RE3. Anticipating that capacity, we will look to trial an approach of returning all bins to within the curtilage of properties on specific roads that Councillor Cross has cited as the worst roads. That trial period of placing bins back into the curtilage of those streets will run during May after the initial embedding of the narrow road lorry service. Consideration will be given to the sustainability of that trial. The trial will be rolled out starting with 2 roads that are known to be of greatest concern, Blenheim Gardens and Fox Hill Road. If proven successful, the method of working will be adopted as standard practice on that round for those streets, and further streets can be considered. Out of an abundance of concern to improve accessibilities, officers have agreed to investigate this as a bespoke solution for these roads to improve accessibility. This council has a duty to run an efficient service and to provide approximately 7 million collections a year for this town within a service budget that has extreme pressures right now. I wish to reiterate that the council is not here to, or in the position to, perform actions for residents who are not doing their part under the rules we've set out. Residents will be informed and asked again to play their part in making this trial successful and hopefully deliver a solution that has been years in coming. An update on the success of the trial will be provided following its completion.
Thank you, Councillor Rowland. Is there a supplementary?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Rowland, for that detailed and positive response. Could you please provide clarification on the situation with fixed penalty notices, the actions taken so far, and the barriers to success with this enforcement method that has been alluded to in the response?
Thank you, Councillor Rowland.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Cross, for your supplementary. Fines in the area have not been proven to work out well over many years. The national guidelines provide fixed penalty notice structure, which is a very long and complex process. It involves 3 attempts to get to the resident, and those can often go unanswered, and it's a very protracted solution that involves a lot of chasing, especially where you've got streets where this problem is frequent, door after door after door. The other situation is that a lot of these streets are impacted by a very transient student population, so by the time you get to the end of that fine period, those students are often gone, and the whole process begins again and again. And so therefore, it's in a situation like that that we can begin to look at creating a bespoke arrangement where no other solution is simply going to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowland. Our third question, sorry, Councillor Williams. Could you what? You have a supplementary? Yes, I will take one more supplementary.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I wanted to ask, the council's household waste service standards have for many years included the fact that residents with narrow pavements must leave their bin, bag or box or whatever's being collected, must leave it inside the curtilage of their property. Why have those, that's item 1.23 if you want to look at it, why have those service standards that were for all residents with a narrow pavement been downgraded to a trial?
Thank you, Councillor Rowland.
Thank you for your supplemental. That they have not been downgraded by any situation. The situation is that you cannot be taking from inside a curtilage and putting back inside a curtilage both. It's a complex and quick pace maneuver done by humans, frankly. And to return that bin back into the curtilage up a stepped landing, sometimes with gates locked, many times in a lot of these streets, will again, as I stated, create an additional 5 to 8 seconds per bin. And that is unsustainable. So in roads where we have these situations, we can look at a bespoke situation to allow accessibility.
Thank you, Councillor Rowland. We now come on to questions. Councillors? We now come on to question 3. Councillor Singh to ask the lead councillor for corporate services and resources.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Reading Borough Council staff's extraordinary willingness to go above and beyond to meet the needs of the town's residents makes the Conservative group incredibly proud of them. Yet, according to the Reading Borough Council's staff survey from 2019, 1 in 10 employees reported being bullied, not enough done on employee development, and a third of respondents, the study shows, felt the council's leadership wasn't sufficiently visible. Some council employees confided in me privately that they were feeling overworked. What noteworthy structural and cultural adjustments have been made since the previous survey that has helped the Reading Borough Council workforce to feel engaged and well cared for?
Thank you, Councillor Singh. Councillor Terry to respond.
Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Singh for his question. I and my colleagues in the Labour group join Councillor Singh in being incredibly proud of the hard work our staff, which ensures we meet our residents' needs. Councillor Singh quotes statistics from the 2019 staff survey. Much work to improve staff wellbeing has been done since then, and there have been more staff surveys. I will in a moment bring Councillor Singh up to speed with the priority areas and the associated work arising from the last survey. But first, let me address the statistic quoted on bullying. Councillor Singh noted that in the 2019 survey, 1 in 10 employees reported being bullied. Staff surveys look at bullying and harassment together. In the 2021 survey, only 44% of the total staff complement of 1,020 responded to the relevant question. Of that 44%, 34% said that they had seen bullying or harassment at work. In 2022, 20% of those who answered the question said that they had experienced harassment or bullying at work. In the same year, 2022, over 70% of staff said that they felt confident to raise issues of bullying and harassment. So it is good to know that the majority of staff feel they can raise such issues, and it is also interesting to note that even though most people feel comfortable reporting bullying, this year the Council have only seen 4 cases of bullying being raised. Of course, any bullying and harassment is unacceptable, so the Council continues to focus on this area. The Council is also very much committed to the wider matters of our employees' success at work and their well-being. To ensure the Council is performing as a responsible employer, a staff survey is undertaken each year. The survey allows the Council to identify areas of focus to make it a better place to work for everyone. The latest results are from 2022. The positives to maintain and build on were 95% of employees agreed that they make a valuable contribution to the success of the Council by doing their job. 87% agree that annual reviews are constructive and they can discuss the issues they want to raise. 87% agreed that their team work well together and support each other to do their jobs well. 91% agreed that their line manager is approachable and supportive. 92% agree that they knew the 4 Team Reading values. The areas for improvement are 33% reported that they do not feel the pressure of work is manageable. 53% agree that leadership is positive and supportive. However, we believe there is more that can be done in this area. 47% do not agree that pay is fair given responsibilities. 49% of staff took part, which is slightly less than 2021. The results were reviewed as well as individual comments from employees, and 4 priority areas were identified to ensure the Council can address the main concerns raised and continue our journey of improvement. The 4 priority areas are as follows. 1, workload. 1/3 of respondents said the pressure of work is not manageable, and a number of comments expressed concerns for few staff and too many priorities with overlapping deadlines. 67% of respondents agreed workload pressures is manageable. 83% agreed that they have regular one-to-ones and annual reviews. 88% agreed that they can discuss their workload with their managers and management show a genuine interest in their well-being. 87% agreed that one-to-ones and annual reviews are constructive and they can discuss issues that they want to raise, up from 72% in 2021. For the annual review period January to March 2022, the Council launched an enhanced performance management framework, creating a new policy, a one-to-one form for all employees to use to hold meaningful discussions, including reviewing workload and priorities, well-being, skills development workshops and sessions provided to staff. During 2022-23, 450 employees have attended sessions on getting the most from our new process, and 80 managers have attended additional skills development workshops. As part of the development of the corporate plan, refresh and service planning, we are currently looking at dependencies across plans and where resources will be needed so we can smooth out when major initiatives are delivered to ensure our staff can cope with competing pressures. 2, cost of living. The crisis is having a major impact on people throughout the country, and consequently, it is likely to adversely impact the well-being and productivity of the Council's workforce.
We've come to 5 minutes there.
Oh,
You want to
dear.
wind up your sentence?
So, Madam Mayor, in winding up, I'm so disappointed not to be able to read this all out. I'm sure that members of the council can see that a great deal of work has been done and improvements have been made. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And I'm sure council members will be able to read the entire answer, which I think is a very detailed one. Is there a supplementary?
No, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Terry, for your detailed response. I appreciate it.
I see a supplementary from Councillor Cresswell. I'm going to take one.
Thank you, Mayor. You mentioned improvement, but on the headline figure of bullying, we seem to have gone from 10% in 2019 to 20% in 2022. Can you elaborate?
Thank you, Councillor Terry.
No, I would have liked to have read out the whole of the answer, but the issue is that we have taking the council staff and leadership has changed over the last year as well. And I think we'll see that there'll be more improvements as we progress through the next few years, and we look forward to the next survey.
Thank you very much, Councillor Terry, and I would encourage everyone to read that answer in full. I think we do have time for at least one more of the councillor questions. So it's Councillor Singh to ask the lead councillor for Environmental Services and Community Safety, question on blocked drains and road safety.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The number of blocked gully reports that Reading Council has received is enormous. Blocked drains rapidly degrade our roads and raise the risk of accidents for pedestrians, especially for elderly and those with disability. Section 39 of the 1988 Road Traffic Acts mandates Reading Council, a primary agency for road safety, which is take action to decrease and avoid accidents. Could you kindly confirm the actions the council is taking to clear the clogs in the drain, or make repairs to them in order to increase road safety and provide a timetable for doing so?
Thank you. It's Councillor Rowland to reply, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'd like to thank Councillor Singh for his question. We agree that all forms of weather, especially extreme weather events like the drought of last year, closely followed by a very wet period, then straight into prolonged cold spell before Christmas, has and will continue to put a huge burden on our highway road network. For clarity purposes regarding Councillor Singh's concerns, I can assure him that we all share those concerns about safe passage on our roads for the elderly, those with disabilities, and indeed any able-bodied resident, and our duty to minimize those risks. I am pleased to say that there have been no claims for injury or damage relating to blocked drains or gullies within the past year. I'm also delighted that the council's 3-year, £9 million residential roads and pavement program from 2021 to 2022-23 has gone a long way to reversing the deterioration of one of our most valuable assets, along with a further £8 million, the 5-year council investment program from 22-23 to 26-27 that will not only keep our roads in an acceptable condition, but further improve them and eradicate the backlog that was caused by years of government underfunding. The council has 18,857 road gullies that we are responsible for, including the lateral connection between those gullies and the Thames Water main surface water sewers. Cyclical cleaning of the council gullies and lateral connections takes place using our in-house highways and drainage operations team. The council received 343 inquiries concerning either a blocked gully or damaged gullies and or lateral connections during the last year, which represents 1.82% blockage rate over our entire drainage asset network. These were all attended by our drainage crew and dealt with appropriately. It is important in order for them to take the 1 in 30-year rainfall events that they are designed for. Many of the reported blockages received by the council followed intense rainfall events where the Thames water sewers could not cope with the volume of rainfall, which subsequently surcharged through the highway gullies onto the roadway. It is standard practice to allow up to 2 hours following such rainfall events for the water to dissipate before reporting them, as often they are found to be clear and running when the drainage crew arrive on site. While we understand the pressure that Thames Water have been under following the drought last year that resulted in a huge number of water main bursts borough-wide caused by the heave and ground conditions and the need to focus on emergency repairs, they have not had the resources to fully carry out surface water sewer cleaning, which is impacting on Reading's road network. The council will continue to press Thames Water to repair and clean those surface water sewers that are persistently surcharging and raising Section 81 defect notices on Thames Water should they not comply. The council also is in the process of collecting condition data for all of our road gullies using our highway asset management system, where the highways and drainage operative will record the condition of the gully and lateral during the cyclical cleaning program. This will make our gully cleansing program more efficient, allowing the council to target those gullies that require additional and more frequent cleaning and help reduce flood risk. The council will continue to investigate all occurrences of flooding as per our Flood and Water Management Act 2010 obligations to ensure that the source of flooding is understood and that appropriate action is taken to reduce the risk of future flooding. The council will, as ever, continue to repair any of our damaged drainage assets, as well as continue to communicate with Thames Water over their obligation under that act to maintain their main surface water sewer assets. I'm sure that Councillor Singh would concur that after all the solid investment that we have been making on our road surfaces, that we have every interest in ensuring that all of that effort does not fall victim to a clogged drain. Any residents that observe a clogged gully or drain should flag it on our Love Clean Reading app, report it directly to the council's online reporting service, or if that is not possible, call the council directly to alert us to an issue. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rowland. Is there a supplementary?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your response, Councillor Rowland. A lot of these fundings also come from central government, and the question is around the surcharge and raise Section 81 defect notices on Thames Water should they not comply. How many of those defects notices has been served in the last couple of years?
Thank you, Councillor Singh. Councillor Rowland.
Madam Mayor, I apologize. I couldn't fully hear that question, so if he could repeat it, I'm sorry.
So, Councillor Singh, would you mind repeating the gist?
Sure, Madam Mayor. So in her response, Councillor Rowland has highlighted we can raise Section 81 defect notices on Thames Water should they not comply. I just need to know how many of those notices been served to Thames Water, if any.
Thank you, Councillor Rowland. Do you have that data?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I thank Councillor Singh for his supplemental. Unfortunately, I do not have that number to hand, but I can look into that and get to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowland. That does conclude our time for councillor questions. There was a further councillor question which has received a written response, and I'm sure Councillor White, as an experienced councillor, will know how to seek any further information he requires. So we now move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the budget and council tax. And as is usual on budget night, we will be taking items 7 to 11 together. I must remind everyone that as this is our budget setting meeting, I am required to hold a recorded vote on tonight's motion relating to approving the authority's budget and level of council tax to be levied for each financial year in accordance with the Local Authorities Standing Orders England Amendment Regulations 2014. Additionally, as I say, as our usual practice, I'll be asking for a composite motion to be moved covering items 7 to 11 on your agendas, as these reports are all interrelated. I have asked the monitoring officer to record the length of the Leader of the Council's speech so I can afford a similar amount of time to other group leaders or their representatives to respond to the budget. I emphasise you are not required to speak as long as Councillor Brock. So, without further ado, and also just to note, if this debate is very long, I will call for a 5-minute adjournment at the end of this debate for councillors to take a short comfort break. But obviously that depends on how long you all wish to speak for. So, without further ado, I will call on Councillor Brock to move the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And under great pressure from the Deputy Leader, I've agreed to keep my speech to the same length as the average Councillor Page contribution to the Planning Applications Committee. So I've never had the luxury of setting a budget in stable and certain times, which I suppose would be the halcyon days of a Labour government, but things can only get better again. But this year is especially clouded in uncertainty. The future trajectory of our national economy is painfully uncertain, and just as unclear is how our societal habits will settle into a rhythm. We still cannot ascertain whether our post-pandemic world is a slow move towards the return of the same or towards an enduringly new way of doing things. But what is abundantly clear is that our new challenges simply compound rather than displace the older ones. Social care services remain under pressure, now further exacerbated by the crisis in our NHS. The delivery of universal services is under strain as it becomes harder and harder to recruit workers against a backdrop of a shrinking national workforce. And inequality of income and wealth continues as a pernicious force in our town and in our nation, driven by a structural economy in the UK that favours the interests of economic rent seekers rather than the collective welfare and security of the people. And our council's entire budget could be directed to finding a comprehensive local solution to just one of these macro issues, and it would still not be enough. Firstly, because local government finance remains a broken system, with government unwilling to either fund councils properly or to reform the system to allow us to properly self-fund. And secondly, Reading does not stand in isolation from the rest of the country. We are at the mercy of both circumstance and government imposition. There is no shortage of will, creativity and pragmatism on these Labour benches, and it is time for government, and I mean government of whichever party, to remove the shackles that bind councils from exercising the complete range of powers and duties that a democratically mandated institution should have. But for now, we must deal with the world as it is. And we never abdicate our responsibility because we cannot do things all our own way. And I'm pleased that I tonight present a budget that would be the envy of many other councils. Years of hard work have strengthened our platform of financial stability, and we use that once again to invest in our town for the benefit of our residents. While other council leaders have to speak of dark chapters, I can speak of driving forward our plans to help improve the everyday lives of those we are elected to serve, and that is the Reading Labour difference. Like the majority of top-tier local authorities, we are raising council tax by 2.99% and the adult social care precept by 2% in order to avoid cuts that would harm our residents. But being always conscious of the impact on our lowest income households, we also further enhance our already bolstered council tax support scheme by applying an additional £75 discount to those in receipt, fully mitigating the impact of this year's increase. And it's also 3 times the Conservative government's guidance, which, if followed, would leave those residents worse off. And as the cost of living crisis continues, we recognise our duties to all residents. We continue to enhance our partnerships with voluntary and community sector organisations to provide holistic and wraparound support, and I'd like to take the opportunity to thank them once again for their work across the town. We continue to administer the Household Support Fund, and we continue to provide bespoke support where it is required, such as our dedicated Winter Watch service, one of very few nationally, and our Holiday Activities Fund for those in receipt of pupil premium free school meals. And as for every year since 2019, we protect all our frontline services and the funding going to our VCS partners. This is no mean feat in a time of rampant inflation, and we're also able to grow the service budgets to provide security and greater certainty, but I would never be satisfied if we had to stop there. So we invest. We invest in expansion, we invest in Reading, invest in our residents' futures. Our ambitious new build council housing programme expands, now delivering over 400 homes across its lifetime. Modern and environmentally friendly new homes, setting the example for what we expect from private developers, while providing opportunities for families and older residents to avoid the choice between staying in the town they love and moving elsewhere on the grounds of affordability. Going beyond frontline delivery of social care and recognising that the needs of carers are integral to a successful social care system, we also invest in a new respite short break facility for adult social care and the refurbishment of Cressingham, which is already rated outstanding by Ofsted. Our net zero by 2030 goal remains unabated. We recognise the need to continue increasing the pace on this, even as we've made some of the most remarkable strides in the country and have, once again, secured international recognition of our leadership in the area. Our housing retrofit schemes and new energy efficiency retrofits across our assets, our electric vehicle procurements, new segregated cycling infrastructure on Shinfield Road and Bath Road, new railway stations, and our comprehensive new bus service improvement plan all play key roles in this. And the latter, in particular, offer a fundamental opportunity to encourage modal shift. And if we're serious about tackling climate change and shaping a better world, we need to get out of our cars and not simply electrify them. Greener, cleaner congestion is not an optimistic future. I'm proud that our aspiration for our town has been recognised beyond this corner of Berkshire, and that the council's incredible track record of securing external funding continues. Successful bids are not a chance thing. They rely on us being able to develop and articulate our vision of Reading as a place that can continue to flourish and deliver. And they also, bids, rely on our sound financial management to ensure that matching funding is available from our own reserves. The successful Levelling Up Fund bid allows us to deliver a new community-focused performance space beside the Hexagon and a brand new central library right here at the civic offices. Cultural facilities for this century for the benefit of residents and sitting alongside the delivery of our state-of-the-art leisure facilities. And far from crowding out private investment, these projects serve to supercharge it. Delivering reinvigoration of the Hexagon and this corner of Bridge Street helps us to leverage inward investment to deliver the Minster Quarter redevelopment and the reshaping of the Oracle so that it can remain fit for purpose in a changing world. New destinations, new housing, new employment opportunities, a resilient and dynamic economy for Reading that continues to grow. Such growth is essential to ensuring that everyone can share in Reading's economic success. I'm pleased that our place-based pilots for our tackling inequality strategy are now getting underway, and we make available tonight more funding to raise the scope of their ambition, alongside even more apprenticeships at the council to set an example to others of the way things should be done. Now, before Madam Mayor, we move to those opposite telling me how everything is wrong and telling me how the most ambitious and holistic programme of work in Reading for a generation and driven by a party with its largest democratic mandate for a generation is not what they would do. I did want to pay tribute to those who make this work possible. So my thanks go, of course, to my front bench colleagues who will doubtless elucidate further as we move through the debate, and to all of my fellow Labour councillors. But my gratitude also to the finance team, and most sincerely of all to every single officer of this council. We as councillors might set the parameters of what we want, a vision for an even better Reading, but it's the officers who deliver it. They're the reason we have a cabinet full of awards and nominations. When I was first elected, I could not have dreamt we would have been finalist for APSI Council of the Year. So thank you, more than I could ever say, to all officers, and apologies to them all for those times that I'm perhaps a little too grouchy. Madam Mayor, I commend this budget to the council and I move the composite motion as printed.
Thank you, Councillor Brock. Councillor Ennis to second.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and I'm very much proud to second this motion to set the budget for Reading. And I note the 2% precept for adult social care, in which all councils, whatever their political views, would have no choice but to accept, given the national crisis in adult social care. Madam Mayor, this is a budget that is responsible. There's no Trussonomics here, I can tell you that. It's fair, embracing the needs of the people of Reading, and it's empathic, fully supporting the needs of vulnerable adults, with an increase of £4.4 million in the budget for adult social care, more than the 2% precept. And I challenge what other council can say the increase, and it's ongoing year after year. Firstly, before I get into my political rant, as I would call it, but others would call it a commentary, I want to thank all the staff in adult social care and the council, has been said, the carers, social work staff who have completed sterling work in the most difficult circumstances. This Labour Council value your work and what you do for Reading adults, residents, and also the unpaid carers, numerous numbers, the backbone of our town. Thank you. And when we set this budget, what is the national backdrop to our budget setting with regards to services, including adult social care? We've got a housing crisis and we've got a national adult social care scandal with false promises, mistruths, and the deliberate attempt to con the people of Britain by this Tory government, who have neglected vulnerable adults with a don't care attitude. Now, I know Councillor Mitchell said it before, and you're right, I would say that about the current state of adult social care. But I tell you what, I thought, what would your friends say and your colleagues say about the state of adult social care? And I found this, I didn't buy it. Daily Express, care crisis deepens, leaving elderly at risk, Madam Mayor. Story after story in the Daily Express, not my favourite paper, but it's the Conservatives' favourite rag, about the current state. You know, in the Age UK report, damning, with more pensioners and vulnerable young adults left behind and neglected than before. Chronic underfunding, heartbreaking stories from people, war heroes, who've worked all their lives, the backbone of Britain, who built this nation. The Express says shameful. People deserve better. I could spend 10 minutes on this, but you said, give me a minute so I can tell us what we're doing. It's very important. Councillor David Fothergill, Chairman of the LGA, Conservative. I'm going to cut this short because I ain't got time. Stark truth of our health service is struggling to meet their statutory requirements. The stark, honest truth, a decade of consistent underfunding of adult social care and underinvestment in health service. He's a Conservative, but he's a councillor. He's a councillor that understands what's going on. He talks about 13 billion needed to actually, not a 2% precept here and there and then opposed by our friends opposite, but 13 billion pounds needed to properly fund adult social care. And what's the PM's response? Falsely claim that adult social care is fully funded at the last budget, and then sticking 2% on the precept, and then calling on his Conservative troops to oppose it and accuse councils of increasing council tax. That's what we've got from the Conservatives. It's absolute nonsense. And all councils of all shades, Liberal, Conservative, I think there's a Green council somewhere, will understand that to support vulnerable adults, then there's no choice but to implement the 2%. So we wonder what will happen tonight, whether you'll support that 2% or not. I'll tell you what we're doing. I can tell you what this council is doing. Extra 4.4 billion. I'm going to move this quick. I think I've got a minute and a half, 2 minutes. High quality home care, helping vulnerable adults to be able to live at home surrounded by loved ones. We'd all support that. Dignity, independence and choice, providing a package of extensive care that would meet their needs and help prolong their lives. Home care first, but also, and this is the job we've got to do and continue to do, is to continue to monitor them packages to ensure they meet the needs of residents while providing value for money, a massive, massive challenge for any council. Valuing the adult social care workforce. We value this workforce for years. We're paying carers higher rate than elsewhere. We're paying them the foundation living wage, which is something that we're very proud of and that we did it. Great to ask questions. We'll do. You ask the questions and we'll get it done. We'll get it done. Looking to support social workers and staff with market forces supplements to ensure that we can recruit, you like that one, to recruit and retain and build motivation and morale. That's the key. That's a massive national challenge for adult social care workforce. Finally, to transform services for adults. We're working with health partners on discharges. Again, another massive, but transforming services for adults.
Councillor Ellis, you've finally misled me.
Sorry?
Do you mind wrapping up?
Yeah, I will do, no problem. Very ambitious capital projects which will transform services to Reading residents, such as sheltered accommodation, supported housing, improved daycare, affordable designated council housing in Battle Street, Hexham Road and Amethyst Lane, costing millions. Madam Mayor, I will finish. The choice tonight is clear. Either we support a budget that's sustainable, fair, supportive to vulnerable adults and all residents of Reading, and that are transformative for years to come, changing the lives of Reading residents for better, or we choose chaos and crisis like we're facing under this Tory government. I second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ennis. I'll call Councillor White to respond for the opposition.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Green councillors want people and planet put first in the council's budget. We support some of the proposals in this Labour budget, but we also have concerns. But before I get into the budget, I'd like to draw attention to the fact that it is the Conservative government that has inflicted devastating cuts on councils around the country for over the last decade. On the budget, Green councillors support some of the new council initiatives. We support more funding for enforcement work to tackle the mountains of waste around Reading. We welcome the £75 council tax rise protection for those on the lowest incomes. We are glad to see action continuing on insulating homes and tackling climate change. Although in all of these areas, we think more is needed. We would like to thank the Labour Group for righting a wrong with this budget, investing millions of pounds of residents' money in the nation of Qatar was wrong, and we are glad this practice has ended. We remain concerned about a number of things. We are concerned about the cost of living crisis and the impact this is having on Reading residents. We are particularly concerned about the impact on our residents of raising council tenant rents. We are concerned about the cost of the Reading Council accounts fiasco. This Labour financial mismanagement has cost council taxpayers over £1 million, and we still don't have a final figure or final accounts. We are concerned about the lack of detail from our children's services company, Brighter Futures. We are concerned about the increase in care costs proposed in this budget. Focusing on rent increases, the eye-watering 7% proposed by the Labour Group is the maximum council tenant rent increase after it was capped by the government. The private sector remains uncapped, and some unfortunate renters are seeing increases of up to 20%. Labour mayors are calling for a rent freeze and eviction ban. Scotland's First Minister has announced a rent freeze and eviction ban. Many Labour councillors around the country are opposing a 7% council rent increase. In Hull, for example, Labour councillors are calling it indefensible. Greens want a freeze in council tenant and private sector rents However, obviously the council only has direct control over council tenant rents, so I will focus on that. We need to protect those most exposed to the cost of living crisis from unaffordable rent rises. Residents are already experiencing massive pressures on household finances, from soaring energy costs to a rise in the cost of food. A 7% rise in council rents would add significantly to financial problems. For a family with a couple of children in a 3-bedroom property, a 7% increase in rent is an extra £435 per year. For some, this increase will be covered by housing benefit, but for many it won't. With Right to Buy, many wealthier households unfortunately bought their homes at a discount. This has left those in the most challenging conditions in the remaining council stock. This is illustrated with a report in 2019 showing that 57% of housed food bank users live in council housing. Many of these households will already be choosing between heating and eating, and a rise in council rents will only make this terrible situation worse. There is £41 million of reserves in the housing revenue account. Greens think the council needs to go back to the drawing board with the council housing business plan to see what can be done to help council tenants. The council needs to be getting together with other local authorities and campaigning for more government support for council tenants, as the council has done previously a few years ago when austerity was particularly acute. This would help the council to afford to continue the much needed investment in council housing to make it more efficient, cut carbon emissions and cut utility bills. What we need is a rent freeze to help our most vulnerable residents in Reading. To conclude, again, I would like to highlight the shortcomings of this disastrous Conservative government and the terrible impact of years of austerity. Green councillors welcome improvements to some council services as part of this budget. However, Green councillors believe that we need to be protecting those residents most exposed to the cost of living crisis from unaffordable rent rises. We don't believe the Labour budget goes far enough. Therefore, Green councillors will be voting against the budget. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor White. I'm expecting group leaders to wish to speak. Thank you, Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I thank Councillor Brock for his opening remarks and to Councillor Ennis for his newspaper review. It's always appreciated. There are other titles that are favourite within the Conservative Party as well. Turning to the budget, I'll address your points about adult social care in what I say next. Last year, I described the administration's budget being put before us then as effectively nothing more than jam today for voters, one designed to underpin Labour's chances in last May's all-out elections. A budget that kicked future deficits and even higher council tax rises further down the road. Tonight, in the midst of the ongoing cost of living crisis that's continuing to hit every single hard-pressed resident of Reading, we're seeing that prediction come true. With Labour, the party that's so loudly committed to tackling the scourge of inequality in our town, once again following the herd of the majority of councils by raising the average Band D council tax rate and adult social care charges by the maximum amount permissible, whilst once again sidestepping a local referendum. Yes, that is well below the current rate of inflation, but it's still increasing the costs for all of our residents by an average of more than £91 a year when they can least afford it. Even those who live in the lowest Band A homes in Reading are being asked for an extra £60 a year. For those in Band H, they will be facing demands 3 times that amount. So why is Reading maintaining one of the highest council tax regimes in Berkshire, when some authorities elsewhere, both Conservative and Labour alike, are managing to freeze or even reduce their council tax bills at a time when the public needs help with their finances more than ever? Take Telford and Wrekin Council, another unitary council run by, wait for it, Labour, yes, Labour, who last January promised residents a 2-year council tax freeze, which it's estimated will cost that council some £4.5 million. It means residents there will typically be paying £228 a year less than their regional average. Ward 2 of Conservative-controlled Fenland District Council. It's not only frozen its council tax element for 4 years in a row, it's reducing it by 2%, with its Tory leader saying it is, quote, immoral to take more money from residents than they need to. That council may well be much smaller than ours, I accept that, but the principle should hold true here. It's clear evidence of Conservative economic competence that puts the interests of their residents first.
Order, councillors. Whatever other councillors say, please listen with politeness.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Labour always laugh at that point. It's so predictable. Only this January, when launching Reading's own tackling inequality strategy, Councillor Terry, the lead councillor for corporate services and resources, said, quotes, sadly, one impact of an ongoing cost of living crisis is that the opportunity gap between the affluent and those that are struggling to make ends meet and face barriers to overcome will almost certainly widen. The council, Reading Borough Council, together with its partners, is determined to do all it can to stem the tide. Well, sadly tonight, it doesn't feel that way in Reading, does it? As this administration is merely adding to the incoming tide of financial pressure on our residents. Labour, of course, as we've heard, claim, as usual, this is all being forced on our town by an uncaring, unfeeling Conservative central government, which has once again failed to deliver a realistic long-term funding solution for local government.
Order, councillors.
I was quoting Labour. But is that the Conservative government whose local government finance settlement this year has led to RBC receiving some £1.8 million more than was expected? Your own finance officers will tell you that. Or the same Tory government that has enabled the administration to spend an extra £4.4 million from the collection fund because of Westminster's redistribution of the surplus on the National Business Rates levy pot. Or could it be the same government that's enabling RBC once again to move an overall one-off cash surplus of £6 million to its reserves, only for that money to be immediately spent in full on capital schemes without a penny being saved or used to ease directly the council tax burden on our residents? Indeed, is it the government whose flexibility in raising the council tax thresholds has actually allowed the administration to raise bills to the extent it's seeking to do this evening? Or maybe it's even the government that's delayed the business rates reset, enabling the Labour administration to keep a significantly higher amount of their business rates than the government itself had assumed would be collected. Or is it the government that's also allowed RBC to benefit from the imminent business rate revaluations, with Reading's business rates being set far in excess of the national average? That's another 1.8 million in unanticipated council revenue in this coming year. Or might it even be the government that's just awarded Reading some £20 million in levelling up funding to renovate the Hexagon and create, as Councillor Brock said, the new central library in this very building? Finally, surely it can't be the Conservative government that's kept our town's economically at-risk buses on the road with more than £26 million in funding in the wake of the pandemic. So where are the positives? Overall, things are looking more optimistic in the strategy for the next 3 years. Thanks are due, and we echo the comments of all parties, not only to the government, but to our officers here in Reading for their continued diligence in achieving nearly £10 million of savings and additional income and a reduction in RBC's borrowing costs. But the risks remain clear. We are still looking at an ongoing deficit of more than 5.6 million being rolled forward, and the council's reserves are still likely to fall by at least £20 million over the next 5 years. And then there's the ongoing auditing of RBC's annual accounts, a situation that still hasn't been fully resolved, though we are encouraged to hear those for 2019-20 may be about to be concluded without qualification, with the remaining 2 years due to be brought up to date fully by autumn next year. We hope that will be the case. We do not need to incur further auditing fees. We are just as aware as Labour of the disparities in entrenched deprivation and fuel poverty that exist within Reading, and the stark impact on life expectancy that flows from them. To Councillor Ennis's serious points, the government is fully aware of the adult social care crisis, and it is bringing forward significant changes in terms of the capping of costs, which will be going through Parliament in due course. So we as Conservatives will continue to argue for lower council tax increases for our own residents, all our residents, as we are acutely aware of these pressures on the people of Reading, and that is why we remain opposed to doing anything tonight that makes the situation worse for our own town's people. The question is often put to us, so what would you do differently if you were in power? I'll answer it. We would actively seek to raise extra income from far more creative and imaginative provision of RBC services. We would further enhance the local council tax support scheme. We welcome the enhancements that Labour is announcing tonight. And we would also bring in far tougher controls over RBC's financial processes to ensure the delayed account situation never occurs again. 1.3 million and rising in auditor fees. That's a third of the council tax rise you're wanting tonight. As councillors, we will continue to do all we can to address Reading's problems while putting our residents first. That's why we as a group recently didn't support raising our own councillor allowances as being entirely inappropriate in the present climate. So we are unable to support the consolidated budget motions before us, not because we don't recognise the financial challenges facing us, but because we don't want to penalise residents further. It's the council tax rise that hits people hardest, and that's what they want action on. Every 1% increase in council tax bills roughly equates to £1 million. So, Madam Mayor, surely for an authority that spends some 160 million annually on its services, finding that extra £3 million or so without expecting those who live here to pay it when they can ill afford it surely is not beyond the imagination of the councillors opposite. We care about Reading's success deeply, and we will continue to hold Labour to account to ensure that the privilege of power they have enjoyed in Reading for so long is one that they exercise responsibly and cost effectively for the good of Reading. In just over 2 months' time, as the people of Reading once again try to start paying their now higher council tax bills, they will once again have their say on whether Labour's financial record over the last decade warrants this administration's continued running of Reading. Madam Mayor, we will be arguing strongly that it does not. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Order. I think because Councillor O'Connell is unfortunately unable to be here, Councillor Thompson, you indicated for the Liberal Democrats.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say the Liberal Democrats regret that the budget, this budget increases council tax to such an extent, but we recognise that the rising demands and pressure on council services during this time of economic hardship, and especially since the budget of Liz Truss, which damaged our economy so much. We regret that this increase has to be made, but we believe it is necessary. We welcome the £75 support in council tax for the worst off in Reading. We appreciate the hard work that officers have put into stabilising the council's finances and also into future planning and also into forward planning for future years as set out in the medium-term financial strategy. So for these reasons, we believe that the Liberal Democrats will be supporting this budget.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Brock. Councillor Hoskin, I have you down next to speak.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'm going to talk about some of the really great stuff we're doing in children's services, but I think sort of almost felt I was going to make a round of applause for Councillor Mitchell for very brave attempts to defend the Conservative government. I think there's two things. I was a bit disappointed in Councillor Brock, and you probably put me right. He's only got at his fingertips why Reading actually has an average council tax bill as the lowest or one of the lowest in Berkshire, and because of our lower council tax base, because there's more houses have lower council tax bands, the average bill in Reading is lower than our Conservative neighbours, which means we get less money in, which means that the financial management that's allowed us to deliver this budget is even more to be praised. I mean, I'm sure Councillor Mitchell knows that. He just decided not to raise it. What Councillor Mitchell also knows, of course, is that when the government that he praises for their economic competence, is that right? Did I hear that right? No, it can't have been. That he praises so highly, when they model local government financing, they modelled the maximum council tax increase. That was the government. When they proclaimed how much that we're funding local government, they modelled the maximum council tax increase. This is a government council tax increase because they won't fund councils otherwise. I mean, I think also Councillor White, I mean, look, you know, I'm sure Councillor Emerson will talk about investing in housing. There's quite a lot of council housing in my ward, and investing in that council housing is absolutely vital. And actually, Councillor White, reflect that, I mean, I'm sure I'm an incredibly well-intentioned person, I don't doubt that, but year after year after year, you've been wrong and wrong and wrong again. You've argued against the tough decisions that we've had to make as an administration. You've argued against increases in funding, and you've argued against building a new swimming pool in Palmer Park in your own ward. Wrong and wrong and wrong again. It is because of the tough decisions that we made, that you argued against, that you voted against, that we're now in a position to invest in children's services, to invest in, well, all the stuff that Councillor Brock has talked about. I mean, and actually, yes, we are going to be campaigning for council tenants and for families across Reading. And the way we'll do that is for campaigning for a different government, which is the only thing that is going to massively change the fortunes. I actually welcome Councillor White joining us with that, but I suspect that's unlikely. I'll move on from the throttling of local government, financial throttling of local government, and just really want to talk a little bit about children's services. And, you know, there's a lot here. Councillor Brock actually touched upon some of the items here, but some of the really important, actually, from a personal point of view, perhaps the, as a councillor, you know, one of the great things we're going to see very shortly is going to be the opening of a new children's centre in Deep Park, along with a new community centre. Let's reflect upon that. I mean, Councillor, I think Brock probably touched upon the councils that are hovering on the verge or being moved into, you know, essential bankruptcy and are cutting services here, there and all across their areas. We in Reading, as part of the Deep Park regeneration, in this case, are opening new facilities, and these will be fantastic purpose-built children's centre and community centre facilities in the heart of Deep Park Estate. I'm also really pleased, it seems like a relatively small amount. Actually, Councillor Mitchell, you know, decried capital investment as though, you know, what do you want capital investment? Well, one of those things that we were investing in is £300,000 in the refurbishment of Cressingham Children's Home, which is for short stays. It's actually a great facility, but I mean, I really encourage councillors to visit Cressingham. It's a fantastic facility. It's outstanding rated. People that the families of kids that are using that service rate it massively, but it really does need this investment, and that's what we're able to do. So, you know, you decry capital investment. That is the kind of stuff that we spend this money on. And finally, and this is about the financial management that is so important. Without the really difficult decisions that we have taken, there have been really difficult decisions. We're Labour councillors. We didn't come into, stand for election or to manage the cuts in spending that the Conservative government have forced on us. But being able to invest £3 million extra funding in children's services, absolutely vital. Yes, that's actually to deal with inflationary pressures, increases in demand, but it helps us to face the future in a stable way. Imagine the situation now if we're actually talking about holding still £3 million of cuts in children's services, you know, the kind of things that keep our children safe, that provide, children's centres, are vital to the future of this town. I really do hope you might even, think again about supporting this budget. It's a budget that invests in this town. It's a budget that protects services, and it's a budget that actually puts this town on, sets it fair for. Well, actually, I would say sets it fair, allows us to face the challenges of the coming year, which is going to be incredibly tough. The cost of living crisis, the state of the economy, Mayor's asked me to wind up, is going to be a really, really tough year. The fact that this council is stable and strong, is that Theresa May? I don't say that. The fact that this
I think that's a good place to stop.
This leadership means we can face that future with some confidence.
Thank you, Councillor Hoskin. Always strong and stable. I have down your neighbour, Councillor Barnett Ward, to speak next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As my colleague said, as Councillor Brock said, the last 13 years have been tough for local authorities. Successive Conservative governments have first chipped and then slashed at council funding. We now have a system of competitive bidding whereby councils have to spend time and resources competing for restrictive funding pots that are only a partial refund of what's been stripped from our communities. We have no certainty about future funding. Announcements are made late, leaving councils little time to prepare. Thank goodness, Madam Mayor, that the days of chaotic Conservative misrule are drawing to a close, and we can look forward to having the adults back in charge when Labour win the next general election. The Conservatives' brutal cuts to council funding go far beyond efficiency savings, and many other councils have had to resort to closing cultural and leisure facilities as a result. 10% of our nation's libraries have closed since 2010. In just the last year, 29 leisure centres, pools and gyms have shut because of rising costs. Reading's Labour councillors believe that libraries, museums, theatres and leisure centres are not just nice to haves. Leisure and culture facilities benefit health and well-being by reducing isolation and providing positive social interaction, new experiences and the opportunity to build knowledge and skills. Every person using our leisure centres, courts, pitches and playgrounds is boosting their physical and mental health and thus benefiting not only themselves but also our NHS. Reading's Labour councillors don't view leisure and culture as add-ons, they are essential services. So in Reading, we invest in leisure and culture. Not only is every one of Reading's libraries still open, they are diversifying and delivering for our communities. We're cancelling fees and fines to enable residents to borrow items without fear of incurring a cost. We're celebrating the diversity of our town through the new Reading Telling Stories strand, with people sharing their heritage, culture and experience through literature. We've partnered with Reading College to give learners with special educational needs work experience at Palmer Park Library. And speaking of Palmer Park, across the way, the largest opposition party didn't want us to build our fantastic new leisure centre and stadium. They wanted to put nostalgia ahead of accessibility and sustainability, and for East Reading to have an ageing swimming pool that wasted energy and excluded people with mobility support needs. Thanks to the vision and commitment of Labour councillors, Arthur Hill's gift has been retained for Reading as key worker housing, and in Palmer Park we have opened a centre that is accessible to the entire community, built to the highest environmental standards. We also have the opening of the new Rivermead Leisure Centre to look forward to, and we're already seeing the benefits of refurbishments at Meadway and South Reading. I hope everyone here has already signed up for the free Better Resident cards that give up to 30% off pay and play prices, up to 50% off for concessions. Reading's Labour councillors are enabling everyone to get active and to have fun doing it. We're working with grassroots sports clubs to support them to best use our facilities and to secure funding. Playgrounds across the town are being refreshed with accessible play equipment to ensure that every child in our town has an exciting neighbourhood place to play with a range of accessible and sensory equipment so every child can join in. But it's not all about the new. Reading's Labour councillors are also preserving and celebrating the heritage of our town, with our High Street Heritage Action Zone continuing to fund cultural and community projects, as well as restoring monuments and working with building owners to improve shop fronts. We're carrying out essential works to the town hall, and the museum and cultural offer has been nationally recognised for its inclusivity work that ensures that everyone in our town can experience our collections and events in a way that works for them. We're celebrating 45 years of the Hexagon with special events and a Hexhibition, and we'll soon be welcoming the internationally renowned artwork Gaia to the town hall as part of our town's climate festival. I opened by talking about the scandal of the Conservative government's cuts to local authority funding and the haphazard way in which that scant funding is allocated. Making councils jostle with begging bowls is no way to run a country, and I will say that even when Reading is one of the winners. I'm delighted that this Labour Council has been awarded £19.1 million from the second round of Levelling Up Fund. We built a bid that not only jumps through the hoops set by Conservative government, but also delivers on Reading's ambitions and values. We will be progressing the decarbonisation of the Hexagon through heat pumps and building a studio theatre and community space which will bring improved accessibility and opportunity. We will be relocating Central Library to this building, providing all the facilities people expect from a modern library and integrating our civic offices more closely into the life of our town. This Labour Council knows that excellent leisure and culture services are essential for a thriving community, and this budget doesn't just protect them from the ravages of this chaotic Conservative government, it enhances and celebrates them, and I urge everyone here to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett-Ward. I have Councillor Robinson next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to begin by thanking officers for all the hard work and efforts in putting this balanced budget together, along with our friends across the divide. It is good to see that our finances are in a much better place than in previous years. Unlike the Labour group, I think that thanks are due to the flexibility of our government, who have made changes to allow for an easing of conditions so that councils have had more flexibility to balance budgets. Madam Mayor, fellow councillors, we are living in unprecedented times. When the current government came to power 13 years ago, we faced an economy on its knees, a financial crisis caused by the previous Labour government's financial mismanagement, with the usual hallmarks of a Labour term in number 10 being rising inflation and high unemployment as per usual, which placed such a burden on our economy. So in order to establish our credit and credibility and undo the years of previous damage, austerity was needed. However, the last few years have seen unprecedented changes with the COVID pandemic and lockdown suffered. Our government wisely chose to save jobs and help our businesses through bringing in the furlough scheme at such huge cost. Now we have a cost of living crisis, which Labour constantly refers to as the Tories' cost of living crisis, when in reality inflation has been suffered across the globe, with many economies suffering as a result of the effects of the pandemic and Putin's illegal war on Ukraine, pushing fuel prices and energy to their limits. I'm not going to sit here and say that everything this government or party has done has been the right thing. We have made some serious and sometimes highly embarrassing mistakes, and this has rightly contributed to where we see ourselves in the polls. But I would say the alternative to a Conservative government would have been and will be much worse. As to the budget, we are mindful that all residents in Reading are suffering in the midst of this cost of living crisis. And furthermore, we believe that raising the council tax even higher and placing the maximum 7% increase on council house rents is hitting the poorest in our community. We will therefore be voting against this budget. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Emberson, I have you down next to speak.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And like colleagues, I'd like to pass my thanks to staff across the council for their hard work in preparing this budget. And as members know and have spoken to the tough times that we face as a council, and I'd like to address the concerns about the rent increase, which we fully appreciate on this side of the chamber. Yet Councillor White referred to more needing to be done and also proposed a rent freeze. This is not something we can do. We can't do both things. And we know that whilst it is another below inflation increase, it is not easy for our tenants. And I would like to reassure members that we are one of the few councils with an in-house debt service team, and we will continue to support our residents through our social inclusion team. And there is significant funding for those that are struggling. And Councillor White did refer to those that will not feel the hit of the rent increase. And I can confirm that's 75% of our tenants, with the rent being beneath the LHA levels. In terms of that choice we face, it was very clear we either continue to invest in our council homes and build new homes with the rent increase, or we don't do the rent increase. We have to have a sustainable housing revenue account. And I think it's quite noteworthy that no amendment has been made by the Green Party, instead just words offered. And that's because you can't do both. You have to make a choice. And on this side, we have made the choice to see over 70 million in the next 3 years towards repairs and enhancements, and this includes 37 million for net zero carbon projects in the next 3 years, and this reduces our tenants' bills and pushes forward our environmental agenda. This includes new fabrics, new windows, new heating systems, and I'd like to point out that Brighton Council has made the same choice of a 7% increase in rent and retrofitting and building new homes. So I'm quite perturbed as to why Councillor White is trying to propose both when indeed his own colleagues in the south by the sea know how difficult times are, and they know that we, against the backdrop of the cost of living, we have to make these choices. We know that the continued financial commitment to housing is felt by residents across this town and across all of our wards. I think we can appreciate tenants' appreciation for the works that are ongoing in making homes better across the town. And I'm pleased that the budget also proposes £150,000 housing community fund for tenants so that they can lead on projects in their local area, albeit I know it's a small amount. I think it is worth mentioning. And tenants will also welcome further capital and revenue investment in technology so that they can contact the council easier. This budget also allows us to continue to build new council homes, as I've mentioned, and with the budget before us tonight, we propose 255 new homes in the next 5 years, taking Reading's local authority new build programme total homes delivered and in the pipeline to over 400 homes. That is no means feat, and I'd like to know from the Greens how many they propose deducting so that they can freeze rents in this ideological nonsense that just isn't possible. The homes, as Councillor Ennis mentioned, includes general needs housing, key worker housing, sheltered housing for over 55s and supported living too. It goes without saying that housing services continue to face challenges, but this budget offers significant provision for housing and supports those at risk of homelessness and rough sleeping too. It's important that we continue to balance the HRA and keep our minimum balance, and I suspect that's why Councillor White and the Greens did not propose any amendment, because it would not be possible to do all these things. There is no magic money tree, and I'm proud of the council in terms of what we are doing on housing and will continue to do. And for all those reasons, Madam Mayor, I support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Emberson. I have Councillor McEwen down next to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also would like to thank staff for their hard work over the past year. Education and public health is a large portfolio, and I thought it would be useful for colleagues to hear about some of the exceptional work that has been carried out over the last year. If I start with education, there is good news regarding place planning, with the number of children not allocated one of their preferences now reduced. Most of our children are going to a good or better standard school. Our new secondary school is due to open, with development of the River Academy progressing well. With regards to SEND, we are currently exploring options to develop more specialist provision on current primary and secondary sites. We also have places at Oak Tree School. Moving on to adult education, New Directions College is something we should all be proud of. In fact, a recent student survey highlighted positive feedback from learners, with an absolutely amazing 100% of learners feeling that the college is a safe place and they are happy with the way they are treated by staff. In addition, New Directions provides a service that is connected to local projects and aims to improve economic and social outcomes for adults. It delivers the Multiply programme, as well as apprenticeships and technical and vocational education, all of which help to meet the skills gap in the area in our town. I could go on, but that's just a brief summary of some of the work being carried out by New Directions. There will be an event later this year celebrating 65 years of lifelong learning in our town, so I do hope colleagues will be able to attend. Moving on to public health, sorry, it is a big portfolio, there's a lot to get through. The aim of Public Health Service is to prevent health inequalities within the town. Some of the ongoing work included, I'll just go through some of it. We have a food worker who's been commissioned There's ongoing support for the Compass Recovery College. Recently, the Health and Wellbeing Strategy was launched. This aims to improve the lives of residents, ensuring that our communities are strong and resilient and inclusive, with all residents benefiting from a healthy and accessible environment. Phase 2 of the Reading Community Vaccine Champion Scheme was completed. This project, you may be aware, established a network of community health champions. I was really fortunate to be invited to an event on Saturday which celebrated the community health champions. And this included a family of 6 who all volunteer as health champions in our community. So just to finish, I would like again to thank all of our dedicated staff and our volunteers. The portfolio includes staff working in education and health. You'll all be aware that there is a strike on Thursday. For our teachers are striking. We really need a government who will pay public sector the pay they deserve, and we need a fully funded NHS. I commend this budget. Thank you. This motion.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen. I have Councillor Singh down to speak next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, while I agree the council needs to balance its budget, meet its fiscal deficit and build reserves, I disagree we should further burden the back of hard-working Reading residents at the time of cost of living crisis. Tonight, I have only one true option: vote against the Reading Labour Administration proposed council tax increases, and I have 3 reasons for it. Reason number 1. Over last 23 years, the council tax has increased nearly 250% under Reading Labour Administration. The only years when there were no increases in council tax is when Labour was not in control. And this includes at the time when centrally Labour government was in place. Reason number 2, catalogue of failures under Reading Labour. Accounting failures, we all mentioned, around £1 million. Equality pay dispute legal fees, £1.5 million. Reading bike failure wasted around 1.4 million. Failed East Reading MRT 20,000. Park and ride scheme 3.2 million. Whilst fly tipping is going up, air pollution is going up, bin sizes are reduced. The point is, we should do whatever we can within our power. But unfortunately, the catalogue of failures is what Reading Labour difference is, and not a laughing matter. Reason number 3, over the decades, Madam Mayor, Labour administration missed opportunities to generate new income and reduce cost. For example, if you truly care about Reading residents, you should reduce the cost of local politics. Elections cost nearly £500,000 each year. You could save around 1.5 million by having elections every 4 years, which could be enough to fix 10,000 potholes across the borough. Instead, we chose to double the allowances of leader of the council and further increased it by 4% in the last council meeting. Commercial trading, section 95 Local Government Act 2003 allows authorities to undertake commercial activities in relation to their ordinary functions. Other councils, there are examples, case studies, are able to generate income between 10 to 20 million pounds, enough to support adult social care. But Reading leadership failed to do so. This council tax increase reflects contemptuous disregard of burdens and suffering of hard-working Reading residents at the time of cost of living crisis. Madam Mayor, this is nothing but mocking the hard-working families in Reading, especially the poor and deprived, and I cannot be party to it. If the Labour administration truly believes this council taxes is necessary, they should have not stopped at maximum allowed increase. They should have gone for 6% and gone for a referendum and convinced the residents, but they did not do so because they know what would be the outcome. When families are struggling on day-to-day basis, when families are choosing between heating or eating, when families are spending less on books. Sorry, Madam Mayor.
I was just calling for order from everybody.
Thank you. Again, we should do whatever we could have within our power. While Mayor of the Reading drives around the town in Tesla car, allowed to park on red roads, residents in my ward, Kentwood, have to work an extra shift to fund it. Madam Mayor, councillors who truly believe cost of living crisis is causing chaos for families in Reading and speaking to them about it at the doorsteps should not pivot 360 degrees in the chamber and vote to raise council taxes. It will be hypocrisy, hypocrisy, hypocrisy. Madam Mayor, parceling out the blame is weak. Taking responsibility is leadership. Madam Mayor, Labour has a brute majority in this chamber. They may vote to increase the council tax, but I urge councillors to think about the residents in their ward and vote independently, not on the party lines. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Singh. As I've reminded you before, I'm sure we all think about our residents. I'm going to hand over now to Councillor Rowland, who I have down next to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Environmental Services Community Safety Portfolio has fought challenges this year with the spiraling cost of the financial crisis and the ongoing lack of visible police on our streets, all to continue to deliver cleaner, greener, and safer streets for this town. My thanks goes to officers whose work above and beyond to deliver a better Reading and ensuring our budgets are well utilized despite the challenges. We have heard the Tory PCC this year tell us we have more police officers than ever, knowing full well that 10% of that promised uplift has quit. And frustratingly, those still in the program spend a significant portion of their training in protected learning and not on our streets. Yet the PCC counts that part-time uplift as they're already on our streets. And as residents continue to voice concern over feeling less safe with fewer visible police officers in their neighborhood, we have a micro need that the PCC is proposing a macro solution for in another cost-cutting measure that will see Reading subsumed into a supersized LPA with Wokingham and Newbury. Even the PCC admits to possible agility concerns with such a solution. That can't be right. I want to thank Superintendent Rathfield and his team for all they do within these limited constraints and working with the council to deliver a leaner, sharper community safety partnership to deliver within the drastically reduced community safety budget that the PCC also handed down last year, continuing to prioritize tackling knife crime, reducing violence against women and girls, and improving communication with residents. We are, however, pleased to have been awarded Safer Streets funding, pouring $429K into the town center to tackle those higher levels of town center issues. This program is already delivering new CCTV cameras, designing out crime, and developing a Safer Students partnership with the university to ensure that students can safely enjoy our diverse Purple Flag award-winning nighttime economy. That success is down to the truly amazing teamwork of this council, the local policing team, Rita, and our nighttime economy venues. Reading's new domestic abuse and safe accommodation strategy has been introduced, ensuring that any victims of domestic abuse, regardless of gender, sexual orientation, background, or age, are advocated for and are safe. We know that a safer town cannot happen without ensuring that we have a cleaner and greener town that forms a positive backdrop for our communities. The budget reflects the challenges in delivering environmental services. Prices for everything have skyrocketed. Fuel, vehicles, manpower, even down to the green food waste bags that Reading still gives out for free to encourage our food recycling program. Food recycling makes up 12% of our significantly higher recycling numbers, which are hovering right at the 50% mark, up from 33% only 2 years ago. As we continue to bring bespoke food recycling to more flats and adding on those blocks of flats, we will continue to see Reading further improve its recycling numbers. We're also on the road to fully electrify our fleet by 2030, having added 5 more electric refuse vehicles this year. And tonight you've heard how this Labour Council tackled local accessibility issues in delivering our narrow roads lorries so residents can have rubbish collected on the day that we promise. Our free bulky waste program is on track to divert roughly 400 tons of waste and possible fly tips from our street in its very first year. In the budget this evening, we are seeking a consistent revenue stream to tackle graffiti, essential to our work to fix broken windows. This sits alongside the work on local retail high streets such as Oxford Road and Wokingham Road to ensure shops are responsible for proper waste disposal. Finally, we are out to tender on our next £8 million investment in Reading's roadways to continue to improve our roads. As our first £9 million investment draws to an end, we've seen 491 roads and 48 pavements resurfaced and teamed that work with the planting of more street trees alongside those roads to respond to the climate emergency in an innovative fashion. It's that kind of teamwork and working with partners, Madam Mayor, that allows a capital tree budget designed to provide 200 trees a year to deliver 387 trees as we have this year. That's working smart, Madam Mayor. And this Labour-led council has offered a budget that is compassionate, rational, and prudent, and will allow us to continue to deliver services for Reading in the next year. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rowland. I have Councillor Moore down to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak, and for the fair trade chocolate as well. I'd also like to thank officers for preparing a comprehensive budget. And I would also like to thank the Labour group for not following their colleagues' direction in Slough this year. Clearly, they need to speak to their Reading colleagues more. Unfortunately, councils all over England and indeed the UK are having to make these tough decisions of all political stripes: Conservatives, Labour, Liberal Democrat, and indeed Green. And Councillor Robertson is right that there are macro issues at play, like the impact of COVID and the war in Ukraine. So it's not all the Tories' fault, but it's mostly the Tories' fault, I would say. And the reason for this, in my opinion, this has been mentioned quite a few times, is the local government settlement process, which is just not fit for purpose, and it doesn't make any sense at all. And all councils are suffering from this, again, of all political stripes. It's not singling anyone out in particular. And I'd like to suggest to the Tory group that if they don't want council tax to rise, then they should speak to their colleagues in Westminster rather than expressing the faux outrage when Tory councils all up and down the country are presenting exactly the same sort of tax rises. And I'd like to say it's very amusing to hear Councillor Singh suggest giving residents a better deal is by reducing their ability to engage in the democratic process. But with the introduction of voter ID, I'm not entirely surprised by that. So just to confirm, we will be supporting this budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, please restrain your enthusiasm, Councillor Page. Councillor Lang, I have you down next to speak.
Councillor Moore, he's should be on our benches, I reckon, with a speech like that. I could be very political. Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. So, I could be very political, and we've been up there and down here tonight, and it's been quite passionate. But I'm going to try and put forward the progress we've made and what planning and assets have contributed to this budget and to the people of Reading. I will come back and so endorse everything Councillor Emerson said about housing. Part of the reason why I'm not going to talk too much about housing is because I do get slightly annoyed when, from a personal point of view, when people make politics out of a fundamental human right to affordable housing. So that's as far as I'll go with that one. Right, moving on. We've now started to refresh our local plan, updating and guiding our strategic vision of development in our town. A detailed project in terms of evidence preparation. We have a dedicated officer to commission the infrastructure delivery plan and public realm strategy, allowing both one-off commissions to run alongside the local plan review. Planning generates a significant contribution to the council's strategic needs, Councillor Singh. Reinvestment in planning and policies are essential in this if this is to continue. In recent years, we've seen COVID. We live in a post-pandemic world, as Councillor Brock says, Brexit, labour shortages, material inflation, wage inflation, which is always a good thing as far as I'm concerned, all impacting on development. The council recognises that these are a pressure on both small and medium developers, hence why the pre-application fees and other planning charges increases have been kept well below half that of inflation. Recent government changes to national planning policy could have a negative impact on our ability to provide affordable homes in the future. Planning enforcement is a resident priority. We are providing more resources for planning enforcement. In the past, it has proven challenging to enforce consistently. So we're looking at a new approach. Our enforcement team has moved over to public protection, which has provided the opportunity to improve procedures and priorities. With the addition of a senior planning enforcement officer, we're expecting to see a high impact enforcement. This then allows other enforcement officers to concentrate on the current backlog. Legal support through our own in-house legal services will reduce reliance and spend on external legal counsel by up to 75%, 36k I think it is, which will then enable the council to introduce greater numbers of waste prosecutions and clamp down on fly tipping. We will see the implementation of a project specifically identifying and enforcing listing building breaches. Where retrospective planning applications have been refused, for example, HMOs, failed to gain a certificate of lawfulness, planners will immediately refer such cases to enforcement on the refusal of the application. Now, moving on to the other part of the portfolio, assets, the Cinderella portfolio. This ensures our buildings are safe and fit for purpose, maintaining a town-wide asset base, allowing us to be flexible in our delivery of services. I'm especially proud that our community hubs have continued to thrive and provide homes for our branch libraries. We'll always look to ensure that hubs continue to be at the heart of our neighbourhoods. The assets team supported our successful Levelling Up Fund bid from central government. I admit that when you do some good, but your One Nation Tory party is dying very, very quickly. Providing an opportunity for a brand new, all singing, all dancing central library. Incidentally, this is only the third home for the library since 1882, and I googled it, and William Gladstone was PM. I'm now meant to do a joke about Councillor Page was at the opening of that initial library, but of course he wasn't. He was still at school then, wasn't he? So, there we go. Right, we have the library. We have the opportunity to realise a modern vision. Councillor Brock gave me that word. I've nicked that off him. A vibrant civic centre, attractive to the public, with modern, accessible buildings, providing more accessible and importantly in-person services. This project will also promote partnership development and inward investment to our town. We support our communities through our schools. Assets has successfully led negotiations for the commissioning of the River Academy School, coordinating council services with the Department for Education and main contractors, enabling the commenced building with completion expected to be in 2024. We completed 22 decarbonisation projects on our schools, saving them an estimated 220k in energy costs. We also, the councils, getting back to Councillor Singh's point again, our council...
Councillor Lang, I could listen to assets all evening, but we can wrap up.
Now, yes. Okay, thank you. So just to say, the council's land and property assets for 2022-23 generated an income of £5.5 million. This plays a key role in delivering financial targets. So I support this budget, and I appreciate living in this great little big town. We recognise its successes, but we also recognise it's also the third most unequal town in the country. The whole council, the whole council.
Councillor Lang.
Dedicated to improving equality.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. I have Councillor Page next to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I just start off by expressing my surprise that Councillor White's speech hardly mentioned the climate emergency and what this council is doing. But that's not surprising because we're one of the top performers and there is little to criticise in terms of the bold climate action that we're taking. There's much more to be done, but there isn't a single budget area in this council that isn't playing its part in tackling the climate emergency. We are leading by example across this council, whether it be leisure, environment, housing, education, all are playing their part and all documented in the budget papers. And page 39 is worth referencing with our, again, accolade in the A-list status as assessed by the Carbon Disclosure. project, one of only 19 authorities in this country, one of 122 across the world, recognised for our bold climate action. And the work that we've done as an authority is enabling us to take the Reading Climate Change Partnership to new ambitions, to exhort local businesses, local voluntary sector and local individuals all to play their part. And we can say to everybody in Reading, you can all do more, because we can show and have shown that we as a council are playing our part. We will do more, but you also have more to do. And this budget delivers across the council. And Councillor Mitchell has the temerity to say that we should be thankful to the government for some of the grants we get. We are grateful, but Councillor Mitchell, they don't compensate for the scores of millions of revenue support grant that we've had taken away. Over 100 million since this government came to power. And then we're offered a few crumbs off the table, and you, through you, Madam Mayor, have the temerity to expect us to be grateful for this largesse. Well, we've earned that because we have one of the best bus companies in the country, and the government recognises that. And we will deliver. And whether it be the new library or the Hexbox, challenging timetables, but we will deliver because that plays our part in addressing the climate emergency. And you have the cheek to compare us with some rural carrot crunching authority in East Anglia when
he has the cheek through me, Madam Mayor.
Sorry?
He has the cheek through me.
Oh, right. Through you, Madam Mayor. But let's talk real comparators. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Mitchell. My friend Roger Humby, the leader of Hampshire, on the record only a few weeks ago, quote, "We've experienced more than 12 years of national austerity and cuts to our core budgets. Inflation continues to grow along with demand for services." And then he says, "As a result, our budgets are now at breaking point. We have gone as far as we can to close the budget gaps we have faced to date, and there is nowhere left to go." And he's putting up the council tax by exactly what we're doing, the maximum amount, without avoiding the costly referendums that Councillor Singh wants us to have, but not to have. So why don't you go and talk to Councillor Humby, Councillor Mitchell, through you, Madam Mayor, and get educated about the realities of local government finance, because you're posturing tonight as last year didn't deliver any benefits, did it? Remember last year we had all-out elections. What happened? We stormed Caversham Heights. We came within a whisker. Poor Robert Dimmick on election day. We came within a whisker of taking Emma Green, and we'll do both this year. And Councillor Singh's final budget meeting will be remembered. So there'll be 3 fewer of you less, and that'll be the reward for your incredulous budget speech this evening. Madam Mayor, I hope that the electorate will look at the big picture. The reason why we are forced into increasing the council tax by half the going rate of Tory inflation. It's interesting, Madam Mayor, when a Labour government faced international pressures, it was all domestic. When the Tory government faces similar pressures, oh, it's all international, not to do with us. You can't have it both ways. You're going to pay the price in May, and we and others in this chamber will say good riddance to bad rubbish.
Thank you, Councillor Page. I think it's fortunate you stopped there. I have Councillor Terry next to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was going to say some of the things Councillor Page said, I still might in my own way. I first, although as everyone has done, I do think I should pay credit to our council staff, and having the lead now for corporate services and resources. I work with a lot of the staff who you don't all see a lot of the time, working away in the back. And although they bore with me the other day, I did mention that old story, as you all know, apocryphal, of course, where the President of the United States turns up at Houston and says to the cleaner, "What do you do here?" And the cleaner says, I put men on the moon, or people on the moon, perhaps we should say now. And I think we should recognise the incredible work that does go on in the back office that makes sure that the council runs, basically. So all of the services that everybody has talked about tonight actually do rely on legal and finance and human resources and policy and all of those people that I've probably missed people out. But we just need to pay some credit to the fact that they're there and they make the council run in their own way. And things that they're doing, we talked about transformation before. It's hard work to change organisations and to move into the future, but there's some great work that is going on and we'll get there in the end. And that's all about changing how we are internally, changing our technology, changing the culture, changing the location with things like the library service coming over, looking at new front doors for everybody. And externally about the place improvements and the place-based pilots in terms of our tackling inequality in Reading. And I know what Councillor Mitchell said, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't keep doing the things that we need to keep doing to find out what is it about, you know, for some people that makes it difficult for them to thrive and to flourish in our very strongly economically successful Reading, in the place that we are. And I'll never apologise for us doing more and more of that work to find out what it is that holds people back sometimes and doesn't enable them to participate in the success that we have. I think there's also just a few numbers. I mean, people forget that hundreds of thousands of people contact us, and the contact centre deals with hundreds of thousands of contacts. We registered 8,000 births. We buried 2,200 burials of cremations last year. We have a 75,000 plus council tax caseload. You know, there's the business rates, there's housing benefit caseloads, there's lots of things that are going on, lots of numbers, but lots of work and lots of hard work going on. And I would just like to, again, say thank you. But listening tonight, I found myself, doesn't happen very often, Councillor White, but you made a statement I wholeheartedly agree with, which is the Tories are to blame for the cuts. They can't just pretend they haven't been in power since 2010, although successive prime ministers seem to do that regularly. We hear it where they just pretend they didn't have any responsibility for any of the things that were going on, from austerity to whatever. And Councillor Robinson's a flexible government. Flexible government, well, you know, flexible in the sense that it says we're giving lots of money to things, but in the case of local government, what it's saying is you're borrowing, you're spending powers bigger than ever. But no, they just tell us to put council tax up. That's what they do. And, you know, we have to put council tax up in order to provide services. Now, Councillor Mitchell referred to authorities who haven't been putting the council tax up or freezing it. Now, I've been in a number of meetings, which I won't mention, and I won't mention people, but because I don't know them all as well as Councillor Page, of Tory leaders who said, we followed the instruction of our government in previous times and we didn't put council tax up. Yeah. And now we don't have enough money to provide services on top of everything else with inflation. Actually, one of the big issues for those authorities is that they didn't keep building their council tax base. They were losing money, not gaining money. And now they're the worse off for it and cannot, you know, they're struggling and worrying about providing the services that we're providing. Remember, we've put 4.4 million, was it, John, I think, into adult social care, 3 million into children's services. You know, we've been working very hard to make sure that we're financially sound and viable and to enable us to do these things. And you talked about putting money into reserves, Councillor Mitchell. But it's a prudent thing to make sure that you've got proper reserves in terms of the risks that are there. For example, we don't know what the local government pay award is going to be, but what we do know is last year it was more than we had money for. So the mayor's looking at me and saying I need to get on with it. I think we just need to recognise that I have to say this, Madam Mayor, the referendum. I just want to point to what page 176, I think it is, in our papers, which show that the majority of people, when consulted, who asked, should we put council tax up by 2.99% and 2%, the majority of them said yes. We had a budget consultation. We know what the people of Reading say, and that's what we're doing, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Terry. I can't see any more indications. Please. Oh, yes, we do have another indication. A last minute, Councillor Carnell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had something planned out, but Councillor Mitchell said it far more eloquently than myself. So I'll just pick up on a few points that have been raised tonight. Firstly, I will try to be brief, not as brief as Councillor Rowland was with her earlier answer. As I can tell, Councillor Ennis is desperate to dive back into his Daily Express. But Councillor Terry, you said about a Conservative council saying they've got no money. But if you want to talk about no money, let's talk about our neighbouring authority, our near neighbours Slough, the Labour authority in Slough that has no money. If we listen carefully, Councillor Page, I think I can just hear the East Anglian councillors rising up after your description of them. We heard from...
Councillor Brock will have a chance to respond on behalf of East Anglia in a moment. Councillor Carnell, please continue.
We heard from Councillor Mitchell the money that has come from central government. Finally, Councillor Eng did admit the Conservative government does support Reading. Thank you for that. And I will just say to Councillor Moore, it's not all Conservative administrations who are putting the council tax up by 5%. Our near neighbours on the other side, West Berkshire, a Conservative authority, have increased their council tax by 4%. And their figure started lower than ours. So I also won't be supporting this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carnell. I now am not seeing any further indications, so I'd like to call on Councillor Brock to sum up, which I'm sure he'd be delighted to do.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was most upset by Tony's, or rather Councillor Page's comments about people from the Fens, but I'll deal with that later. My gratitude to the Liberal Democrats for supporting us tonight. I'm glad that you share in our vision. I don't still fully trust you, I'm afraid, but I always said that Ricky Devine was always far too harsh on me, and I'll certainly pass on some advice to Councillor Swindlehurst, the leader of Slough, in our regular competition between the two of us. The Conservative group, I mean, yeah, very confusing. I'm not entirely sure they understand the sort of principles of compound budgeting and how council tax rises affect budgets in years moving forward. I'm also not sure they grasp the fact, as Councillor Hoskin had said, that in fact, when you look at our average council tax per dwelling, because of the distribution of our tax base, we are the third lowest in Berkshire, firmly the middle of the pack there. Councillor Singh tells me that we should be a bit more like Thurrock Council, I think, and invest in extraordinary ways and just see what happens. And if we go bankrupt and have to put up council tax 10%, that would be a good thing in his book, with no referendum, I might add. But the Conservatives used to be this party of business and investment and of robust economies, but yet I see no evidence of it at all this evening. In fact, fortunately, there is a choice, because the Labour candidate for Emma Green pointed out to me earlier that the Financial Times found that the 5 best UK cities, small European cities for investment, are in fact all Labour controlled. Reading right here ahead of Luxembourg, Geneva, Cambridge, Ghent, Slough and Oxford. Wonderful world that we live in, where Labour is the party of economic growth and of business. I do agree with one principle that they've espoused this evening, which is it is important that we offer value for money. I've always been entirely upfront with anybody in the public about the reasons that we raise council tax, why we raise council tax, what we use that money to do. Testing of whether or not we provide value for money is for the electorate at the ballot box, and they have consistently said that Labour is offering value for money and have backed our plans for this town. But I do think that the Greens have got off a bit easy so far this evening, because really was what they said any different to what the Conservatives said, which is we shouldn't raise any taxes, any rents, but we should continue all of the investment. Don't worry about the fact that that will leave a massive black hole. Perhaps Councillor White would have preferred I followed the example of Green-led Brighton and Hove, where they've put up council tax by the maximum, put up the rents by the maximum, but also cut services, laid off a large number of staff, slashed youth services, a green council in chaos because it cannot keep control of its day-to-day spending. Or maybe he'd prefer I followed the example of Green-led Lancaster City Council, where even despite their savage cuts to services, they are predicting an 80% budget gap. 80% at a district level council, nothing but being out of financial control. And that's where the Green Party's pure populism gets you. If you face in all directions, you will lose control of your budget and it's residents who will suffer. The decisions we make here are not political games, Madam Mayor. They have consequences. So opposite us, a Green Party with no plan and no vision, just adjectives and no verbs, backing every NIMBY crusade that rolls along, opposing the park and ride schemes, opposing bus lanes, opposing over 100 affordable homes at the planning committee, wanting to open our bus lanes to motorists, letting drivers get away with breaking the laws of the road, a Green Party who aren't progressive at all, a Green Party who aren't even green at all. Yeah. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brock. I will now put the motion to a recorded vote. Councillors, when I call your name, please state clearly whether you are for or against the motion, or indeed whether you are abstaining. I will be calling names in alphabetical order, so I'm sure you all know your surnames. Be ready. Councillor Ayub.
For, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett-Ward. For. Councillor Brock.
For.
Councillor Carnell.
Against.
Councillor Challenger.
For.
Councillor Cresswell.
Against.
Councillor Cross.
For.
Councillor Davis.
For.
Thank you. Councillor C. Dennis.
For.
Councillor G. Dennis.
For.
Councillor Eden, that's me, for. Councillor Edwards.
For.
Councillor Emberson.
For.
Councillor Ennis.
For.
Councillor Gavin. For. Councillor Gittings.
For.
Councillor Griffith.
For.
Councillor Hacker.
For.
Councillor Hoskin.
For.
Councillor Keane.
Against.
Councillor Keeping.
For.
Councillor Khan.
For.
Councillor Kitchenham.
For.
Councillor Lanzoni.
For.
Councillor Leng.
For.
Councillor Lovelock. For. Councillor McElroy.
Against.
Councillor McEwen.
For.
Councillor McGonigal. Councillor Mitchell.
Against.
Councillor Moore.
For.
Councillor Popu-Coles.
For.
Councillor Page. For. Councillor Robinson. Councillor Rowland.
For.
Councillor Singh.
Against.
Councillor Terry.
For.
Councillor Thompson.
For.
Councillor White.
Against.
Sure. Councillor Williams.
Yes, sure.
Councillor Williams.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Woodward. And Councillor Yeo.
For.
Thank you. That motion is carried. Councillors, before we move on to motions, I'm going to give you a 5-minute adjournment. I'm going to keep that very prompt, and please remember the cameras are still on, so please turn your mics off if you wish to talk amongst yourselves. We'll be back just before 1:45. Councillor, you've all decided you want to stay on the same side of the chamber as you started. That would be good. Unless any of you wish to cross the floor. Right. Thank you, councillors. And thank you for what was primarily a well-mannered and cordial, if robust, debate. Thank you, Councillor Williams. We'll be now moving on to the remaining items of business this evening. Because we have dealt with items 7 to 11 en bloc, that means we have items 12 and 13, two very important items to discuss. So our next item of business is item 12, a motion on carers' leave. Councillor Thompson.
Thank
you. Councillor Thompson, there you are, sorry. Right at the end. Councillor Thompson to move.
More than 2 million people who are in employment in the UK also provide unpaid care for friends and family. This is according to the government's Family Resources Survey for the financial year 2019-2020. These informal carers, as they're sometimes called, may give personal care, for example, or arrange medical and social support, or take their loved ones to doctor's appointments, and so on. A bill being brought through Parliament by Liberal Democrat MP Wendy Chamberlain will, for the first time, give people in employment who also have caring responsibilities a statutory entitlement to unpaid leave. Under the Carers Leave Bill, carers who work will be able to take up to 1 week's leave per year flexibly in small amounts, from half days up to the whole week. The entitlement applies to all employees, regardless of length of service. Carers' leave is for planned, foreseen caring commitments rather than emergencies. Emergencies are covered by time off or dependence leave. Carers who wish to take carers' leave will give notice for the leave in line with annual leave notice. Employers will be able to postpone the leave, but only on reasonable grounds. Carers taking carers' leave will have the same employment protection as for other forms of family-related leave. The bill aims to reduce the pressure on employees, many of them women, who juggle work and caring commitments. At the same time, it will help employers improve the well-being and retention of their staff. I'm glad to say that the bill has cross-party support in Parliament, which much improves its chances of becoming law. It is due to begin its second reading in the House of Lords this Friday, the 3rd of March. But in these turbulent political times, the bill could still be derailed if, for example, a snap election is called and legislative time is curtailed. Our aim in bringing this motion is to make doubly sure that the bill does become law through enlisting the support of Reading's 2 MPs. A carer's entitlement to leave would be a small but concrete step towards easing the burden on all the informal carers in Reading who are also employees. I therefore ask you to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. As Councillor Connell is not here, I believe Councillor Moore, you wish to second.
I second and reserve my right, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Terry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment to the motion. I believe there's copies available that will go round.
Thank you. We'll take a moment to allow everyone to see the copies. Perhaps we could ensure that the mover of the amendment gets its early sight of it. And yeah. So White, I'm not sure you have anything to discuss yet. Thank you. Yes, Councillor White, the meeting. Councillor White. Councillor Terry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, in moving this amendment, I'm not disagreeing with the main part of the motion, which is more action is needed to support people in work who have caring responsibilities as a general statement. But when it comes to this council's record of supporting employees, I believe the council is a model employer, given the range of support already available as set out in my amendment, including the provision of unpaid leave, which Councillor Thompson refers to in her motion. Madam Mayor, the guidance is clear that managers should support all employees to find a solution that enables them to work and undertake their caring responsibilities, including flexible working, flexi time, compassionate leave, remote working, term time contracts, and while noting the financial hardship it may cause, taking unpaid leave. As you can see, Madam Mayor, there is no objection to making unpaid leave a statutory right, but it is widely understood that the Carers Leave Bill, as Councillor Thompson said, has all parties' support. So I wasn't entirely clear why she was bringing this motion to Council, but it has enabled us to showcase what the Council actually does. The amendment therefore proposes that the Council does write to the 2 local MPs, urging them to support this, even though they are already expected to do so, to note the wide range of support already available to Council employees, and also notes the services available to unpaid carers across Reading through a link to the Reading Services Guide. I move, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Terry. Councillor Brock is seconding.
Second and reserve my right, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak to the amendment? In that case, Councillor Thompson, do you wish to respond to the amendment?
I'd just like to say that I am glad that the amendment still encourages support for the Carers Bill. I note that it is the practice of, seems to be the practice of the Labour Council to amend motions, but we have no problem. I do not have a problem with the amendment as long as the support for the bill goes through.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Brock, do you have anything to say?
We took the mean bits out of our comments, Madam Mayor. No. Look, good. Just to explain, I mean, really, we felt that it was important to reflect what is already happening at the council, because, as Councillor Terry said, I think it is an exemplar employer, and we should want other employers to follow what we're doing. And we agree entirely with the importance of the statutory right, but we feel that employers can, of course, go beyond that. And we wanted to make sure that we take every opportunity we can to advertise what we do as an employer. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brock. Councillor Terry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Brock has said all that I would have said. Thank you.
Thank you. We therefore move to a vote on the amendment. This is not a recorded vote, so all those in favour of amending the motion, please show. Was there anyone against? And I don't think there's anyone who hasn't voted, so I don't think any abstentions. So that amendment is passed unanimously. We now move back to the debate on the amended substantive. Does anyone wish to speak on the amended substantive? Councillor Keane, is that an indication? Thank you.
Hang on.
Councillor Keane.
So yes, we do support this. Over on this side, just caring responsibilities, we know typically fall on the responsibility of women, obviously not always, often referred to as the sandwich generation, people who are looking after children, elderly people, possibly people with learning difficulties, learning disabilities who need extra support, and just trying to work as well. So anything that we could do to support carers is absolutely vital. We're also aware that there are, as the original motion said, about people working longer hours, people generally working longer anyway because of the cost of living and the extra burden of caring, or extra responsibility rather than burden, is just coming on to more and more people, particularly when people are working longer. They might actually develop health problems themselves, so they might be looking after themselves as well as relatives or friends. So anything that we can do, and there's also people who are, as we keep people in the community for longer and support people longer, their needs are becoming more and more complex, requiring a higher level of expertise from those who are caring for them. So anything that we can actually do to support people who are carers, the better. And I really wish that we could do more to prevent them actually, well, just because it's a nicety anyway, but prevent those people from becoming the carer for themselves through carer stress. So yeah, thoroughly support this.
Thank you, Councillor Keane. Councillor Robinson, I have you down to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to begin by thanking Councillor Thompson and Councillor Terry for the amended motion. Caring for loved ones, be they relatives, neighbours or friends, is a role that many take on, and it seldom receives the acknowledgement and thanks it truly deserves. Yet it's something that comes with many costs, be it time, emotional and financial to those carers. The motion is to support a bill proposed by Wendy Chamberlain MP to support carers in balancing work life and their caring responsibilities and supporting employers in maximising the retention and well-being of staff, allowing for a statutory week's unpaid leave for such purposes. I and my fellow Conservative councillors wholeheartedly support this endeavour and thus am more than happy to vote in favour. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. I'm not seeing any other indications. So, Councillor Moore, did you wish to exercise your right?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to thank Councillor Thompson for proposing this motion and Wendy Chamberlain MP for tabling the bill, and thank you for the different parties in Westminster for giving cross-party support to this. We hope it does receive royal assent in short order. To sum up the comments, the amendment adds additional information on what Reading Borough Council is currently doing for its own staff regarding this topic, so thank you very much for Councillor Terry for that amendment. Councillor Keane's support for carers is welcome, especially pointing out the extra burdens on people and that people are working longer and trying to alleviate stress in these situations, which hopefully the carers leave do. And Councillor Robinson also highlighted the lack of acknowledgement and thanks carers often receive, so hopefully this will also help alleviate some of that. But thank you very much for everyone in the chamber. Hopefully you'll all be voting in favour. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Thompson, do you wish to sum up the debate?
Actually, I think Councillor Moore has summed it up beautifully. Thank you.
Thank you. Remarkably succinct. Thank you. So in that case, we will move to vote on the amended substantive. All those in favour, please show. Okay. Any against? Any abstentions? That is passed unanimously. We therefore move to item 13. City of Sanctuary Principles and Equitable Treatment of Council Tax Reductions. Councillor Williams, I have you to move.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I won't read out the wording of the motion. I assume we've all read it, but I will say a few words because I typed them all up earlier. This is a cross-party motion that hopes to achieve two things: correct an anomaly and make a statement. As a town, we're immensely proud and honoured to host the brave people of Ukraine who have been forced to leave their homes by an evil and illegal war. We're also proud to be host to a refugee from anywhere in the world who is fleeing terror and oppression. Reading is a town of 1,000 cultures, made special by both the people who come here and the people who are born here. So to make life a little easier for both resident and refugee, this motion seeks to make a small change, nothing more, just to ensure that a single person sharing their home with a refugee won't lose their council tax discount. It's nothing huge. It's even costed within the existing council tax discounts budget, but it might be huge to one person, to the person it helps to offer up their home and the person who comes to Reading to find sanctuary. No one running for their lives must ever be met with indifference. And Reading is the very opposite of that. It cares. We care. This motion does more than just make that little change. It repeats the message that Reading is a city of sanctuary. We're ready, willing, proud to play our part in an age of global conflict and insecurity. This motion is proposed by myself this evening, but it's not here purely due to me, Madam Mayor. As soon as I suggested it to the leader of the council, Councillor Brock, he agreed in principle. We had to get the wording right, of course, but think about that for a minute. He didn't hesitate because the idea came from a different political party. Oh, do I get a backing? He looked at the idea. Right, I'll start that again.
Yep.
He didn't
Singing
hesitate.
is optional.
He didn't hesitate because the idea came from a different political party. Instead, he looked at the idea, decided it was right, and acted. And perhaps all of us could do a little more of that. I'm also very grateful to have a seconder tonight for this motion from the Labour group. Councillor Terry and Councillor Brock should know they have my genuine gratitude for their help. The motion before you has the support of the Refugee Support Group in Reading, a group who help refugees and asylum seekers rebuild their lives. They help and support people who have escaped war, violence, persecution, modern slavery and human trafficking. They're a fantastic group, and if anyone is listening here or online, go and have a look at their website, check them out. Perhaps it's a small donation, but you might find a way to help. So the motion, of course, has the support of the Green Party in Reading, the support, hopefully without an amendment, of the Labour Party in Reading, and I sincerely hope it'll receive cross-party support from our friends in the Conservatives and the Lib Dems. Both have indicated already to me that they would like to support it. And that will show that we have our differences, but on some things, Madam Mayor, we are united. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Terry to second.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In seconding, just a few words. So, Madam Mayor, I'm pleased to second the motion and thank Councillor Williams for drawing to our attention this anomaly, which can easily be resolved by using Section 13A powers. Reading has a strong record of welcoming new communities, whatever the reason they may have for needing to come to our town. And we will always look to remove any barriers we can to helping our residents, to help those in need. I think Councillor Williams has said what we all feel and think about the current situation in Ukraine. But we must remember those coming from Afghanistan, those coming from Hong Kong for different reasons. Those who come from all parts of the world and have found a welcoming home in Reading. I second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Terry. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Josh Williams for proposing this motion. The fact that a single occupancy discount on council tax could be lost owing to the generosity of the occupant in opening up his, her, or their home to a refugee is ethically and morally wrong. It is in fact tantamount to punishing somebody for doing the right thing. I and my fellow Conservative councillors agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Williams on this and therefore will be happy to vote in favour of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. I'm not seeing any other indication. Oh, Councillor Carnell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, diving in late again. As Councillor Robinson has said, we're more than happy to support this motion. On a point of clarity, the motion calls for the reduction for only 3 months. Is that a requirement of Section 13A? And if so, would we be bringing the motion back in 3 months when, again, we would be happy to support? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carnell. Councillor Brock.
We followed the practice that has been adopted elsewhere, but you'll note that we do require officers to consider any request for an extension thereof. I would just like to say, I mean, firstly, Councillor Williams is much nicer about me than Councillor Terry has ever been, which is always very pleasant. And I just wanted to say, one of the interesting things about this, and I'm grateful to Councillor Williams for drawing it to our attention. When the Homes for Ukraine scheme began, I can recall very distinctly asking the chief executive and other officers whether the Homes for Ukraine scheme and its operation would affect anybody in receipt of a single person discount. And the answer came back after checking that it would not. I had assumed that that answer was therefore universal, but it is not. And so it is good that we have this opportunity to clarify and resolve that kind of inconsistency. But it does typify the way, unfortunately, that too often elements of our refugee system in this country work, which is inconsistent between different schemes and different approaches. And it is a great shame, and it's a source of great frustration, I know, for Reading Refugee Support Group, but also, and most importantly, for those people who have come here themselves. That they should not be treated unequitably because they have come via a different scheme to someone else. And I do wish that the government would resolve some of those inconsistencies, bring things into line, ensure that we are not just a city of sanctuary here in Reading, but that we can be a genuine country of sanctuary. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brock. Before I just move on, I just going to note a declaration of interest, which I do not believe precludes her participation in any way from this discussion, which is Councillor Mpofu-Coles is a trustee of City of Sanctuary, which obviously has a bearing on this debate, but I don't believe there's any prejudicial interest there. But thank you for declaring it. I'm not seeing any other indications to speak, so I'll invite Councillor Williams to sum up.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just briefly for Councillor Carnell, that the wording of the motion is to allow someone to have a refugee stay with them for 3 months. So we won't need to revisit that. 3 months perhaps is not long enough in all instances. And I commend Councillor Brock's amendment to my original wording, which adds that officers administering the scheme will consider any individual requests for an extension beyond that in a compassionate, fair and equitable manner. I'm grateful for those speaking in favour tonight. Thank you. And for Councillor Terry. It's getting late. I should shush. We've all got homes to go back to. We should probably think about that. We'd like to go home now. But with this vote, we might be able to help someone and welcome them to a home at the time when they need it most. So thank you very much to all in the chamber.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. I'm going to call the vote. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. That does conclude our business for this evening. Councillors, thank you for your attendance tonight. I ask as you leave the chamber, please do take a look at the Fair Trade display from Reading International Solidarity Centre in the hallway. Thank you.